TK-12. This reflects, and Keeley can correct me, I think $19.6 billion more of investments than was reflected in the January budget. That's a number you've never seen in California. $128.3 billion investment. That's all funds. Just on Prop 98 alone, you've never seen a number like this. $110.3 billion, Prop 98 investments. 110.3, substantially higher than that January number. Look how this reflects. We all talked about one day, just imagine, $20,000 per pupil. Well, we're at $22,000, almost $23,000 total investments per pupil. Some say, well, that's misleading. What about the Prop 98? Well, getting closer, $17,000 per pupil investments. Compare that to just $7,000 a decade ago. So, I mean, this is just order of magnitude. And again, it's not just about spending money, it's what you spend money on. And I just want to remind you, because I think it's worthy of being reminded. You know, I see some of these governors out there, their big idea of education reform is what you can't say in a classroom. Talking about something that doesn't exist. Or banning books because they use the word social or emotional. I mean, it's comedic, and that's what all the time and attention goes to. That's not education, period, let alone reform. This is education reform. This is about completely reimagining the public education system. We created, with the legislature, a brand new grade. Thank you, Kevin McCarty, everybody that was out there working hard. We did it last year. We're implementing that whole new grade. Summer and after school. How many years they've been talking about that up here in the state of California? Finally did it. 4.8 billion reasons why that is happening. In fact, you're going to see some more money in a few slides later because we want to accelerate that effort. That's 9 hours of enrichment per day. That's reform. That's happening in real time, reducing class size. All the experts, you put them all in one room, they say, what do you need to do? That's the list. Special education, $3.1 billion, $3.1 billion we've invested just in the last few years. Another $500 million we're asking the legislature for from the January budget. Teacher hire and recruitment, $2.9 billion. Professional development and support, $1.9 billion just in the college savings accounts. And I'll just remind you, because this is exciting, never been done anywhere. 3.5 million of our kids this July are going to get college savings accounts in their name. What percentage of their parents don't have access to checking and savings accounts? Because of the legislature's strong advocacy, you know, some of them, everybody that supported this program, $2 billion of college savings accounts are going to be set up in a matter of weeks. No state's ever done that. That's creating a college-going mindset at an early age. Also creates a tool for financial literacy, wealth creation, not just income. It's a complete paradigm shift in terms of how we can use those accounts to build partnerships, capacity, and understanding and opportunity. And that's happening. The Universal Meals Program, we're going to talk about that in a moment. We're going to get up to $1.2 billion investment. No state in America has made an investment like that. And my wife's here, and thank her for her strong advocacy. Senator Skinner has just been extraordinary in this space. So it's philanthropy, stepping up. That doesn't even include the $450 million we're using for capital investments to get those kitchens going so we can get fresh food and provide more partnerships with our ag partners. So that's exciting. That's why we call it transforming public education. These will take some years, but this is what we've been doing last couple of years, and we're funding these things. We're not just promoting it, we're investing in them, and you can see that reflected in these new investments in May. $8 billion for flexible block grants. Now this goes to the issue of what are you doing about that learning loss? What are you going to do about more high-dose tutoring and the needs for high-dose tutoring? What are you going to do in terms of flexibility? We need flexibility, $8 billion of new investments for flexible block grants. People say, well, hold on. You had a January budget, showed about 5.7 million people you projected would be enrolled in the next fiscal year. It looks now to be about 5.5. That declining enrollment, which is not unique to California, it's happened all across this country. How do you help soften the blow of that funding or lack thereof coming to locals? Well, here's what we've done. We added $2.1 billion to address declining enrollment, but we changed the formula. We listened. In January, we put out a proposal to do a blend of the last 3 years. People said that's good, at least 2 of the last 3 years, but there was that 1 year because of COVID where that decline wasn't necessarily a real average. And so we acknowledge that. And so we're blending a more appropriate average, we think, that's more reflective of that decline. But we're basically softening that impact. That's the 2.1 million. Everybody said, well, that's nice, your 5.33% LCFF COLA. That was January. You can see the LCFF COLA is 6.56, which I know some of the education advocates just heard that. I know, 6.56. That's a number we haven't seen. But they said, what about the base increase? And that's reflected as well, the 2.1 billion right above it. In community schools, I can't believe we're doing this at the scale we're doing it. I remember out there on the campaign just talking about how we can do community schools, which is just about taking down silos, making schools part of the community, connecting dots, taking fences down, literally, not just, figuratively. $3 billion working with the legislature. So much credit they deserve to do community schools last year, and we're putting another $1.5 billion. Why? Because we're getting all of the big ideas coming back to us, all the grants, all the applications, and they're so exciting, but they have exceeded our appropriation. And so we want to continue to build that momentum and those partnerships in the spirit of something that should have happened decades ago, and that is bringing the community, bringing not just parents, but parents, and the larger community, the libraries, park playgrounds, everything, and bringing that whole person focus to our public education system. We also, as I noted in the May revise, we're truing up to that that's the 1.2 billion is reflected in the 600 million plus what we did in January, getting to 1.2 billion on school meals, doing more for residencies for counselors, school counselors and teachers, building on a lot of that work we were doing in previous years. You can see the acceleration that I was referring to as it relates to summer and after school. And then you could see more investment in STEM professional development. Don't think for a second we are not disciplined in that space, but we also believe in STEAM, not STEM, and that's the A that's missing, arts and music. And you say, well, 63 million is nice, but remember the January budget. You add up the January and May budget, $1 billion of new investments we're proposing for the legislature in arts and music. We also are mindful that we need to do more in terms of facilities. You have Prop 51, you may recall, running out of money. It was the last school bond that was passed. We're going to appropriate $1.4 billion of the remaining. That's the rest of that bond, $1.4 million. It's not reflected here. But we're going to increase the general fund contributions by an additional $1.8 billion in May for capital. By the way, it's not in here, $1.8 billion for deferred maintenance. Again, not reflected, coincidental, 1.8 for deferred maintenance, 1.8 for capital, in addition to the dollars you see here. That provides, just to give you a sense, there's a lot of schools, 1,050 plus schools, districts in the state, rather. We want to spread that out. 1.8 billion sounds like a lot, but it's a minimum of 100,000 per district. So even the smallest districts are going to look for opportunity north of 100,000. As it relates to opportunities, as I said, no greater, nothing like it. Institutions of higher learning here in the state of California, no greater, conveyor belt for opportunity and dreams than our CSUs, UCs, and community colleges. What we've missed in the past is a collective goal, a vision. Everybody's been, running around. You had the master plan decades ago, but we never had an attainment goal for the entire state. We've changed that. Working with those institutions of higher learning, we came up with this degree completion goal of 70%. So we've established a new goal, but we established it with the systems. Here's the exciting part. We put together this, what we call Partnership for Achievement, this memorandum of broader understanding. Those are technical words, but basically put together a package working very directly with CSU, UC, and community college to align not only the systems themselves, but our own broader goals, legislative goals, and state goals to address the deeper and systemic issues around equity, degree completion, time to degree, transparency, increasing enrollment for in-state students as well. And we put all that out, and we have a new framework And we're going to fund that framework. Historic investments, multi-year, so they can plan. The biggest problem is the episodic nature of the budgeting, and so they can't plan for the future. And that's why we're committing a multi-year 5% base increase. That's substantially higher than some of the 2, 3, 0% you've seen or cuts in the past. And we think this will be a game changer. In fact, we see that reflected in a lot of the enthusiasm, gentle enthusiasm at the UC Regents and obviously with the trustees and board members of the community college. All of that is built off what we did together. And I, again, want to just thank the legislature. You know, we put $2 billion out last year to address the underlying causes of increased costs. So much is around how do we subsidize those costs versus how do we address the reasons why costs are so high. So we did 2 years free at community college. We put $2 billion for more student housing. And by the way, that is looking to get oversubscribed as well as applications are coming in. We provided more scholarship support for Cal Grants. Interesting, we've got some issues, particularly at community college, where decline in enrollment may not be as much as 170,000, might be closer to 110, but nonetheless, more Cal Grant opportunities. And here's the big one. It's an important number. I've mentioned this to a lot of my friends. They said, I don't believe that. 37,000 more slots just in the last couple of years. UC and CSU slots. The ones that believe it are the ones that got their kids in. The ones that don't, the ones that didn't get their kids in, which I get. It's hard. We're a few years off from that, and I'm already stressed about it. No influence, however. So look at the May investments building off. Well, forgive me. I'll go back on the higher education. We look forward, as an example, and I'll just close on this one example. I saw, Dr. Drake runs the UC system, and his goal, the goal of the UC is to have a debt-free experience. And they codified that in our partnership by 2030, just in a few years. And they're already driving. Policy discussions are changing because of this new framework and engagement. And again, I'm just enthusiastic about it. Maybe it's my time as Lieutenant Governor spending on both those boards, but it's a point of real pride, and I know envy of every governor in this country, and for that matter, every leader around the world, our remarkable system of higher education. We need to cherish it, we need to invest in it, and we're doing that.